Hi, my name's Denise, and then this is our major assignment project. In our group, it consists of me, Denise, Omar, Lauren, Mikey, and Brian. So for our athlete, we have a collegiate male basketball guard. So realistically, what is basketball? Basketball is one of the most popular team sports played in the world. This basically consists of two teams playing against each other, both offense and defense. And then their primarily goal is to basically add up points by throwing their ball into the hoop. And with this, how this is done is players have to advance the ball with different amounts of physical abilities and physiological abilities.
All right, so for our needs analysis and movement patterns, our first question we had to ask ourselves was, what does a guard do on the basketball court? He plays both a point guard and the shooting guard, or the one and two guard. Those terms are interchangeable. Part of their responsibilities is handling the ball by making strategic passes, driving the ball toward the basket, scoring points, and guard the opposing team. So what will we see? Acceleration. So guards are often required to push the ball up the court on offense, and they are the first usually to defend in defense, especially on fast breaks. Ball handling. So they need to be able to use the dominant hands and non-dominant hands to protect the ball away from defenders. Cutting. They need to make sharp cuts to get open for easy passes in open lanes. Defensive slides. They need to maintain a low stance and lateral shuffle to stay in between the person with the ball and the net and kind of protect their hoop, if you will. Off ball movement, back pedals, and consistent movement throughout the game. These are just some of the things that are required from the one and two guard. It obviously gets way more in depth, which we'll kind of cover in this next slide. So physiological characteristics. Our athlete needs to have great endurance, strength, and power. These qualities will allow him to do tasks such as rebound, back down defenders, play strong defense, and fight to get a bucket while getting fouled, for example. The one and two guards are typically the smallest players on the court. Um, for example, you have guys like Steph Curry who are just naturally smaller than everybody else. So a guy with the stature of a Steph Curry needs to be strong because a lot of guys are going to try to take advantage of him being smaller by backing him down in the paint, and he needs to be able to rebound just as good as anybody on the team. Coordination, balance, and speed and agility are all qualities that a guard needs to have to be able to perform at his position at a high level. So taking the ball up court every possession requires good awareness of where your teammates are and where they're going to be. Having awareness while being able to dribble by and through defenders, and also having the ability to attack the basket while protecting the basketball requires great agility, coordination, speed, and balance skills. Roughly 20% aerobic and 80% anaerobic in most basketball scenarios, and that is from Gottlieb et al. In 2021.
Mhm. Okay. As you know, basketball is a very high contact sport. In basketball, you can experience many injuries like your back, your neck, your nose, as we know back then when Kobe kind of had to wear that mask. But specifically for guards, we found that knee injuries are found more than any other position. And with this, studies show that it affects 83% of their injuries. So the three main situations that we see these injuries would be during offensive cuts, landing from jumps, and defensive cuts. And then going into all these injuries, we see them, of course, in the knee, but more so in the lateral meniscus, which we see 59.7%. And then the medial meniscus, where we see it 40.3%. And studies do show that in the first 10 minutes of game, guards do experience more injuries compared than any other position. So centers, yeah, they still experience some back injuries, of course, by getting rebounds, but this is more so into the game. But the first 10 minutes, this is where we would worry more so with the guards.
So we're going to go with anthropometrics with our first testing. This is going to include height, weight, wingspan, and hand size. All of these are important metrics of being a basketball player. They're expected to be pretty tall. They're going to have a decent amount of weight to be able to defend, stay on their feet while they're defending. Wingspan, we want them to be able to block shots, guard the perimeter, make passes, play good defense. And we want high hand size, which is going to help with ball control, on-ball defense. So starting with height, again, this is not fatiguing. So 6 foot to 6'6". This falls within the D1 average height size for our backcourt guards, point guards, shooting guards. So Dr. Masaru Teramoto, he did a study that looked at all of the anthropometrics and the strength and power testing that the NBA Combine does, and he compared it to a 3-year performance of these draftees' first 3 players in the league, first 3 years in the league. What he was able to find over these 3 years was that the length size relationship was the strongest predictor to how well this player was going to perform compared to strength, power, or speed and agility. So we're going to want to make sure our player falls within that. Obviously, as we can see, it's a high predictor of how our player is going to perform. So second, we're going to look at the weight. We want our player to stay within typically around a 10 to 12% body mass index, and they're going to weigh around 192 to 195 pounds. This is going to allow them to be able to defend. Basketball gets pretty physical. A lot of guys, they're shoulder checking. If they're in the paint, they're going to have to stay on their feet. They're going to have to be able to withstand these forces that the player is playing. If they can't do that, they're small. They're not going to be effective on defense. It's not going to really do much for us as coaches. We're not going to be able to really get our players. So if they're lacking, we're going to want to focus on getting their weight up. Or if they're a little over, bring them down. We want to get them right in that perfect slot. Make sure they're good. Speed, they have that speed. They're not too heavy. They're not too light. Get them right there. It's also important to note that point guards, over the past 6 years, their weight has been increasing. It could be something, to look at in the future. Why is this happening? Is the position changing? That maybe we may need things that we need to determine in the future. So third, wingspan, we're going to want that to be around 6.3% longer than the height. So just for an example, say a player's 6'5", we want that wingspan to be typically to fall within the 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" range. This will help them be able to defend the perimeter. If a player is getting shots off, they got shorter arms, they're going to be able to shoot over them all day. They're not going to be an effective defender. Same with passing, they're going to be able to pass around them, and same as offense too. Shorter arms are not going to be able to get shots off over defenders. So that's shooting guard. You kind of got to do that a little bit. So lastly, hand size. This is going to help with ball control, dribbling, shooting. Maintaining possession. If they're in like a triple threat, people are trying to hit the ball out of their hands, they're going to be able to maintain that. Also going to help with on-ball defense. You're constantly trying to steal the ball from people you're reaching in. Just having longer hands, lengthier hands is going to be able to get you in for the better, be able to, pickpocket them, get that steal, block shots. You have that extra little length to try and tip a shot, or also when they're trying to pass around you, we also have that. So the measurement is going to go from the base of the palm, to the tip of the middle finger, and for guards, that's typically going to fall within 8.5 to 9 inches. So moving on to our second testing protocol. Again, this is going to be based off NSCA guidelines. This is going to be, we have our non-fatiguing, so now we go into change of direction and agility. So our first one is going to be the 505 agility test. Sorry about that. This is going to be the 505 agility test. So first off, when looking at agility, there's going to be 3 contractions. The first one is going to be that eccentric contraction, which is going to be when the player is slowing down, they're getting ready to change direction. They got those short, choppy steps. The isometric contraction is going to be when they're in the stance. So this is right before they have that propulsive push off after that 180 turn, leading into going to the other direction. And the concentric traction is going to be at propulsion as they accelerate in the opposite direction. They get that push off. Obviously, change of direction. This is important. Guys are constantly sliding. Playing defense, you're sliding, changing direction. Someone sets a screen, you have to go around it. They set a screen for you. You have to cut. You want a backdoor cut. They make a backdoor cut. These are all types of reactions you're going to have to make. So we want to assess how quick they are at that. And in a study completed by Dr. Francisco Varela, he was able to find, he was looking at the cutting angles, various cutting angles of basketball players and their concentric and eccentric force output, and he found that the players that exhibited a higher concentric strength output were typically, this is compared to eccentric strength, they were typically faster players. So if we notice that, hey, our player is good here, they meet the standards that we want for our test. Okay, so now when we're programming, we can kind of focus on the concentric strength, as this is going to help our player get a little faster, develop speed for them, make them be a little quicker, give them that little edge on the court. So how the 505 is going to look, in the bottom corner here, you see on the left side of, this is where the player is going to start. They're going to have their dominant foot, whichever foot they choose, is going to be on that line. The timer is going to start as soon as they start. They're going to sprint that distance to the, they're going to cross through this finish line. Then they're going to get to that turning line. This is where they're going to plant, make that 180 turn, and accelerate all the way through the finish line. So this is a good test. It for its agility purposes, it does have questions of validity, as it doesn't necessarily test the agility. The agility needs a mental factor, a mental decision, some sort of stimulus that the player has to react to. This doesn't have that. It's great for change of direction. We can measure that, but this doesn't have that stimulus to make it agility. As a player, they know when they're starting, they know where to go, they know where to turn. The timing starts on them. There's no reactive purpose. So that's why we're also going to include in here reactive timing gates. So this is going to have that mental, we're going to be able to see their mental capacity, how good they are at decision making, how accurate they are at making decision making. And this is going to help us give a read at, how good they may be on defense, because obviously when you're guarding someone, you don't know which way they're going to go. They're trying to get around you. You can't read their mind. You have to react to the way their body moves. You have to get in front of them. You have to stay in front of them. You have to shuffle. Same thing for offense too. You see an opening, you're going this way. You see an opening that way. Boom, you cut back. We have to be able to make that quick reaction, assess that, see how good our guard is at that. So how this is going to look is they're going to start. The player's going to start that one set of gates here. They're going to run through a second set of gates that is 5 meters from there. Once they get through this gate, there is going to be a stimulus either on their left side or right side. It's just going to be a light that lights up, and then they have to run through the gates on the corresponding side there. As soon as they start moving through that timing gate, the time starts. It's also going to pick up their reaction time to which step they make. So we're going to be able to read how fast they are, how fast their decision making is. And then obviously this is going to be important for how well our guard's going to perform on defense. So this is a great metric for us as coaches to use. If we need to work on change of direction, we need to work on speed. This is going to give us a great idea of how we can program. So moving on to the last one, again, per NSCA guidelines, this is going to be, it's third in the test, but it's going to be last for us. It's going to be lower body power. So obviously lower body power, this is going to be one of the most important ones. This is going to be an indicator of our jumping ability, our sprinting ability, max speed, acceleration, change of direction. So there's a lot of important components that go into lower body that really make a difference in basketball. So first we're going to start with a counter movement. We're going to do 2 counter movement jumps, a broad jump and an isometric with thigh pull. Our first jump is going to be hands on hips. So we're not getting any momentum from the arm swings here. So this is going to be a more accurate measure of our lower body strength, as we're not getting that extra muscle contraction. We're utilizing the stretch shortening cycle a little less. And it's also important to, really get a good reading, because backcourt is guards, point guards, our athlete. We really want to, backcourt players tend to exhibit more lower body power. So, it's important to, get a good reading of what they're going to do. So our second jump is going to be with the arm swing. So this is going to give us a better assessment of their vertical jumping ability. It's going to have a greater muscle activation. And it's also could be beneficial for us because they may reveal improper technique. As we identified in our needs analysis, 23% of injuries come from either jumping or landing. So it's important to, analyze, are they landing properly when they come down from the jump? And it's also important to, hey, do they have some sort of weird technique that they're not doing this right? They're not jumping, they're not reaching their max height potential, and how can we go ahead and correct it? And both of these tests will be done on force plates. Be able to get us easy readings, simple, easy, quick feedback. Read it, adjust it. We'll get 3